Hello and welcome back inside the ACU TV or studio for this week's Optimist Newscast. I'm Cindy Varner alongside Carrie Johnston. As students returned to campus last week, they were greeted with COVID-19 regulations and high case numbers. As of this week, masks are required in all instructional spaces until Friday, January 21st. Masks are not required in common spaces, including the library, the campus center, or the SRWC. As of Tuesday, January 18th, there are a total of 68 active cases on campus and 53 individuals in quarantine due to exposure. Spring rushing is coming to a close this week with new member orientation starting on Friday evening. Optimist Allie Jones has more on this story.
For the first time in ACU's history, freshmen are wrapping up the rushing process and preparing to start new member orientation, with the first round of invitational rushes ending just last week. This change in policy came from the hope that current freshmen could benefit from a new opportunity to build community by plugging into the sororities and fraternities on campus. Freshman journalism major Joseph Chapa says that he, like many of his peers, appreciate the chance to reconnect with clubs as soon as they came back.
Yeah, I think it was an exciting thing to come back to just because you get to see your friends and you get to meet new people.
While there might be strict guidelines concerning masks inside the classroom, rushing events were not made to require masks. According to Joseph, many rushies saw wearing a mask as a personal choice.
I mean, for me, it's just I have to take care of my own body, no matter where, if I'm at a rush, if I'm in the classroom, if I'm at work, in the library, wherever, whether that's wearing a mask or, getting your vaccines or just even taking some vitamin C.
As rushies wait to see what bid day will bring, clubs around campus prepare to welcome their new members. For The Optimist, I'm Allie Jones reporting.
The Department of Theater and Alpha Psi Omega put on a performance of Shrek the Musical this past Sunday for their annual 24-hour musical fundraiser. Students from all departments on campus auditioned last semester for the musical and were informed of the show and their parts at the beginning of the 24 hours on Saturday. Nora Valise, senior theater major and Alpha Psi Omega officer, said that even though students were allowed to have scripts on stage, the directors wanted to push the students to learn as much as they could in 24 hours.
Now, of course, we do allow scripts on stage for a lot of the people with a lot of lines because that's a lot to learn in 24 hours, but just to make sure that everyone remembers their entrances and everyone knows roughly where they're standing and their music and some harmonies if we can, but we're going to push them, we're going to challenge them, and I know that they can meet that.
The annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day March took place in Abilene Monday. The Optimist Allie Jones was at the march and has more on the story.
The annual Martin Luther King Jr. March returned to Abilene this year. Due to COVID-19, last year's event was modified into a drive-by parade, but this year, over 500 Abilenians joined the march from the Woodson Center for Excellence to the Martin Luther King Bridge. This included students and staff from the ACU community. The mayor of Abilene, Anthony Williams, who also serves as the Chief Diversity Officer at ACU, was one of the main speakers during the pre-march ceremonies.
I see McMurray in the house. I see Abilene Christian in the house. I see Hardin Simmons. Give him a round of applause. We want you to do your part to be sure the legacy of Dr. King lives on in the Abilene community.
The group walked up and down the Martin Luther King Jr. Bridge as a way to remember Dr. King's life. But this year, they also marched in honor of the 4 individuals that started the tradition in 1988. The current march organizer, Michael T. Royals, is the son of one of the original marchers, Claudie Royals. As a recent amputee, Michael took his first steps since the amputation as a physical sign to represent his father's dreams and Dr. King's words.
If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but by all means, keep moving.
Royals, along with the other speakers, said that they were grateful for the community support of the march, saying that even though Abilene might not be perfect, the community has always pulled together to carry out Dr. King's dream to keep moving forward. For The Optimist, I'm Allie Jones reporting.
Up next, basketball season is in full swing with conference starting over winter break. Carrie Johnston has more.
Thanks, Sydney. After a historic season for men's basketball team and changes during the offseason, the Wildcats started 0-2 in the early season matchups. The first win came in the third match of the season with a victory in overtime against UT Arlington. The highest point difference in a winning game prior to conference play came against Howard Payne University, ending in a 112-41 victory. After the first two losses of major teams, the Wildcats bounced back and won 9 in a row, going into conference with a 9-2 record. Conference has not gone as well as they won their first 2 games, but have since lost 4 in a row, falling to 9th place just above Chicago State in the conference standings. The women started their season off with 3 blowout wins before receiving their first loss of the season to Kansas State. After that, the team went on another 4-win streak. The Wildcats' second loss came against Oral Roberts with a nail-biter contest that ended with ORU winning by 3. Heading into conference, the team was 8-3. Since then, the women have only lost twice in conference, coming in 4th in conference standings right below Grand Canyon University. After a tough 30-point loss to GCU, the men went up against New Mexico State Saturday night. The men struggled against guard Teddy Allen, who scored 41 points in total. Going into the half, ACU was only down by 4, but after a solid start in the second half, ACU was within 3 with 14 minutes left. The minimal lead was held with a back-and-forth contest up until the last 4 minutes of the game. Allen began to slowly shutting down ACU while turning misses and fouls from the Wildcats into points for the Aggies. The game ended with a 77-63 victory, with ACU receiving their 4th straight loss in conference. The next game will be at 7 p.m. on Thursday when they host Seattle University at the Teague Center. It also will be streamed on ESPN+. The women also played New Mexico State after losing to GCU Thursday night at home. The first quarter was slow back and forth, ending with a 16-16 tie going into the second. The Aggies picked up the pace quickly and led by 10 going into the half after holding ACU to 13. Heading out of the half, ACU was outscored in the third quarter, still showing improvement as they were only down by 11 going into the fourth. The women seemed to be a completely different team in the last quarter, as they held the previously dominant Aggies to under 10 points the whole quarter. ACU took advantage of the lack of scoring on New Mexico's end and scored 22 of their own, giving them a 3-point lead to end the game. It came down to redshirt junior guard Cameron Morass's free throws, as the game was within 1 prior with 3 seconds left. The women's next game will be at 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 20th, when the team travels to Seattle University. The game will also be broadcast on ESPN+. The football team released the 2022-2023 season schedule earlier this month, with big names such as Missouri and North Dakota appearing on the schedule. The season home opener will be against previous Southland rivals and now WAC rivals Lamar University on September 1st. The first road game will be against the University of Missouri. The first WAC matchup after Lamar will be an away game against Dixie State on October 1st. The only other 2 WAC home games will be Southern Utah on October 15th and SFA on November 19th. After the first 4 weeks, the Wildcats have a travel-heavy schedule ahead of them. That's all for this week's Optimist Newscast. I'm Carrie Johnston.
And I'm Cindy Varner. Welcome back, and we'll see you next time.